Over on my Substack, I often talk about my thinking much more often than I talk about materials, because our minds are our most important creative tools. And so I talk about and think about my attention span and my mental hygiene and mental health in general. So that's what I talk about more than materials, but materials matter. And so I thought I would share a bit of my materials today. So here's the currently running sketchbook that I've been showing you pages of on my Substack, and it was made by the About Blanks company, and I got it at a local stationery store called Orangium Papeterie in Vancouver, Washington. And so here I've got a bookmark and I've got my sketchbook pages. I thought I would show you a bit today of some of the materials I use in this book, including pages like this with the watercolor, not watercolor, I'm sorry, the ink washes. And this isn't watercolor paper, but I do combinations of watercolor and ink often. Here's another watercolor. I keep saying that. But ink wash. Get it through my head, ink wash. Now this combines gouache and ink. But today I thought I would talk about some of the ink washes that I do here in my sketchbook. You can see several. Here's one. And there's another one up there. I use it in combinations with, here's a number of ink wash little drawings. But that's a technique I use often in my sketchbook. And so, but I'm going to show you the materials as well as some of the kinds of paper that I look for that are sometimes bound in a book, sometimes they're in pads. I'm going to show you some pads today because they lay flat and it'll be easier to show you what I'm talking about. Like here's one. See, it's watercolor paper, but it's hot press. It's really smooth. And so when I use an ink pen on it, there's literally no friction. There's nothing to catch the nib on. And the same is true with the paper in my book. See, it's really smooth paper. Nothing to grab the nib with. And a pen I use most often is a Sailor Fruity de Manon. And so, if you could see, it's got a bent nib there. And that enables me to do really thin lines with the tilt of my hand, and then with another tilt, it gets much fatter. And then it could go right back up to really skinny. And it's the angle of the pen is what gives the line thicknesses. And it's all in one pen. So I have all these different thicknesses of line options without switching pens. And so I like that. And I've got a converter in it. And this allows me to draw up ink. So this is a refillable pen. And I could choose any kind of ink. There are some waterproof inks available that will work in these pens. Not every ink works in these pens, but there are watercolor, I keep saying watercolor, but there are waterproof inks, there are water resistant inks, and there are also inks that run in water. So the ink that I've got loaded in this Sailor Fruity de Manon pen is one that runs in water. So here, you can see it smears nicely in water. And the ink that I'm using that's loaded in this pen, and I have a a sticker that I put on the pen so that I know which pen is which. But this is the Jack Herbin, I'm going to butcher the name, I'm sure. Bleu de Profondeurs. Anyway. But this too I get from my local stationery supply, Eryngium Papeterie here in Vancouver, Washington. So I use that a lot. And paper towels. I use paper towels a lot. Those you can find anywhere. But the paper is important. And it will just take different experimentation with different kinds of paper to feel what feels good with whatever pen you use. Most people give up too soon when they're choosing art supplies because it takes a while to figure out what a particular supply does and whether or not you like it. So here's another pad that I also get from Eryngium, and this one is also a watercolor pad. But this is different in that it's got a bit of tooth in it. There's just a slight texture to it. And so it's a little softer of a paper. And so my pen still does the same things. See, real thin line. But it's very different from, see, it skips a little bit. I like it. I like the softness. I like the texture of it. But it's lightly textured. And so the quality of the line feels different. Same pen, different paper. And the wash is different. The ink wash is different. So that's why you have to experiment and play. Try new things. Having some friends who have other materials and trying new things out. Finding a store that's nearby where you can go and see things in person is important. And then just being patient. Okay, because then once you've got the materials and you know kind of what they do and how to refill the pen, how to hold it, how to make the lines, then there's techniques. So there's a lot of different techniques. So that's another learning curve. Most people just give up too soon when they're starting to learn to draw with a new technique. But here's the technique that I use. So I will often start with a watercolor pencil. I like these Koh-i-Noor Hardmouth. Again, I'm butchering the names. But anyway, I like the watercolor pencils. So, I can make a mark on them and then, see, they'll smear, run away. So when I'm doing a wash, the pencil line disappears. But the where I'm going to make my drawing, I will just kind of lightly sketch in the pencil, in the watercolor pencil, because that will fade when I come to doing the ink. And then I just take my pen and go over it. I don't worry about it being exact. I'm not trying to make a good drawing here. I just want to show you the materials and what they do and some of the techniques. So you can see kind of what's possible here. Okay, get this other little leg here. The cup. Okay, so that's just a rough outline. And I can do this much and then come back and use a Pinto water brush. I used a lot of these in at breakfast because that way I don't have to get up and refill the water reservoir, which is a very fancy used sour cream container from long ago. Materials don't have to be spendy. Anyway, but I use those when I'm just sitting at breakfast drawing. And other times I've got various brushes and so forth. But I'm not going to do too much there. You get the idea, I'm sure. And here I've got a beginning of a rabbit that I've already done some of the wash, and it's now dry. And so then I can go back over it. But the novelist Ursula Le Guin talks about the extension of the human into the world is done by technology. Her definition of technology is that extension. And so a bag is an extension of the human's ability to carry things. And so an art supply, a pen, a paper, is an extension of our minds into the world. But it takes a while to find what matches your heart, your mind, your hand, whatever your situation is. And being patient is beneficial. And yeah, I've got my little, just regular little water. So back and forth I can go, adding more. And like I say, I'm not going to worry about this being a perfect drawing. I just wanted to give you the idea of the layering you can do with the there. And sometimes I don't bother even with doing washes. I just do some cross hatching and stop there. And combinations of cross hatching and washes. So here's just a cross-hatched sort of bunny. Again, I'm not worrying about making this into a really good drawing. I just want you to see the kind of thing. But there's a lot of value in going to an independent stationery store, locally owned, if you're lucky to have it, art supply store, because you can ask somebody questions, and sometimes they'll have samples out, so you can try. You can make marks with the pen or something, and if you're a member of an artist group, well, or you just know somebody who has some art supplies, you can ask them, what do you use? How do you use it? But you just have to give yourself time to try it for a while before you decide, I like it, don't like it. Because it can take on average 2 months or so to to get a handle on the supply, how it works, the materials themselves. Do I like that ink? Do I like that pen? Do I like that nib? How do I get this width of line? How do I get this effect with this technique? It just takes time, and you have to just give yourself that grace and time. So anyway, that's my favorite tool, the Sailor Fruity Demanding Pen, my favorite ink, and I really like that paper pad, and I love my sketchbook. Yeah, here's a combination of the ink, an ink wash, some cross hatching. Yeah, there's stippling, the gouache wash, and the ink wash. Yeah, here's what the technique I was just showing you. Combinations of washes and lines and cross hatching. Yeah, here's a combination of ink wash and there's another color of ink. I've got one of these Sailor Fruity Demandings filled with this green ink. It's a lovely green ink. I like green, and I like blue, the blue ink. But it's just fun to just play with materials. Yeah, there's another ink wash. I like doing this every morning, and it's not about getting things perfectly the first time, although I've been doing this since I was a little kid, so it comes out pretty good. But just keep going. Just keep going. Thank you for looking. Thank you for listening. Just keep going.